Hi there, it's Keith, hoping you're well. Thank you for joining me today on this session on planning and tracking your success. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll be covering areas to help you get started, thinking about how you plan, how you set some goals, and just really making sure that you get the most time from each day and you're productive rather than busy, because there's always going to be a difference between the two. But we're going to cover quite a few different topics today, just giving you some short bursts of information for you to take away, use, and get things working in a way that suits you. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to put some screen shares up, go through various bits of information on the session, and then give you some exercises to follow as we cover through the day. So first things first, let's see if we can get this all ready to go and take you through the first couple of points on today's session. So here we go. Yeah, so as I said, we're planning time and tracking your success is what we're going to be focusing on today. So the important thing for me to kind of work with you today is getting the most from your time and working effectively is always going to have an important impact on not just your results, but how productive and successful you feel each day. As I said, there's a difference between being busy and being productive. We could easily all work or find ways of working 8, 12 hours a day quite comfortably. But how much are you actually getting out of your day in terms of results and just feeling that you are getting somewhere? And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. A lot of the work that you start now is really going to be about where you find yourself in 12 months' time. So the plans that you put in place this week, next week, and so on will have an impact on where you are in a few months. So again, we'll be spending some time looking on that. And when you are planning, this is something I've found throughout the years of working with individuals personally and professionally through coaching, is many people overestimate what they can achieve in a month, and they vastly underestimate what they can actually achieve in 6 months or 12 months or even 2 years. So it's about having realistic focuses, but also not being afraid to review what's working and tweak your plans and so on. So we'll look in some areas as we cover that today. One of the other things that I said is going to be super important as we go through is being realistic, getting to know what works for you by tracking your success. And what you'll find is that's going to be a whole set of skills that you'll continue to develop through your personal life, your professional life, in whichever career path that you choose to follow. So we'll have a good look at that, but we'll just give you some pointers in terms of things to look for. And again, what we're going to be covering during this session is about setting you on the right path and getting you thinking about the choices you make. So I'm not going to go in through this session today saying you must do, you have to do. Everything we're going to cover today is suggestions. And one of the things that you'll find as you're doing this, you'll start to learn things that work for you and you'll be able to get the best from your time. So that's kind of just setting a bit of a standard for today. Now, during each of these sections, there's 4 sections that we are going to cover today, and I'll take you through those in just a second. But as we go through everything, there'll be a short exercise for you to complete the end of each section, just so you can start moving forwards, okay? Now, how you complete the exercise is entirely up to you. If you want, you can run through the whole course as we are today, and then come back and do the exercises afterwards. Or you can pause, do the exercise, restart the course, but do it in your own time. Whether you do it all in one go over a couple of days, entirely up to you. The thing that I would say, though, is you will get more benefit from this working through the course in order. Now, there is the opportunity if you want to jump forward, jump back, and so on. But if you follow the course in order, it'll all link together very nicely, and it'll be a lot easier for you to follow. Now, if you want to go back, as I said, and just review sections at various times, then please do. And in the support notes that come with this, there'll be a little bit of an overview of what time frame, which sections are covered, and you can go back and review those in your own time if you wish to recap on something. Okay, so hopefully that sets a bit of a standard of how we're going to do it. But the 4 sections we're going to cover today, initially I want to spend a little bit of time on preparing your sales process to work effectively. Not a huge section here, but just thinking about the steps you've got in place so that your timing's good, you're working effectively, and you've got some bits and pieces in place ready to start. The second section we can look at is using your time well in introducing your services, okay? How you communicate to customers and how ready you are to do that. So you're both effectively saving each other time and making sure that your time used is effective. The next thing we're going to look at is the importance of planning. Some steps and processes in there which will help you get some strategies in place to help you get to where you want to be. And then the final section to finish on is tracking and reviewing your success. What works for you, what you can do differently, or maybe some things you can try in future. But we'll spend a good bit of time on that just to make sure that you've got everything you need to start moving forwards. So what we'll do is, in that case, we're going to start with the first part, which is your sales process. Now, for me, and it's the starting point for most people that work for themselves or have a product or service to offer, and particularly in personal training, it's really important before you start to have some tools lined up and ready to go. And what I want to do just over the next couple of minutes of this section is just take some time to make sure that you're prepped, ready to go, and you've got some ideas in mind in terms of how you're going to begin, okay? Now, the thing for me, and I've always believed this in my time, my career, is before you consider selling your services, you have to really think about and wear your buyer's hat and ask yourself a few questions before you start along this road. So the first thing, as a customer or a potential client, the first thing it's really important to ask yourself is, what's in it for me? Okay, what am I going to get by taking up personal training? Okay, what value will I get? And I'm not necessarily talking about just the monetary value here, but in terms of the time spent, the return I get, where's the value for me? What's unique about the opportunity that you're offering me over others? Because maybe there's classes I could try, maybe I could do online work, there's various things that you're competing with as a personal trainer. So what's unique about what you're offering over others, okay? And finally, how am I benefiting? By spending time and spending money with you as a trainer, what am I as a client going to actually get out of this? How are you going to help me achieve my goals? So how am I benefiting? Really important that you take some time to give those points some consideration, because they could be your unique selling points, and they could be just your points that you're going to get across when you are talking to your customers and potential customers as you start moving forwards. Now, when you've got these questions in mind, it can allow you to see why someone would make a purchase from you rather than somebody else. And it also means that your time is being well used. What do you specialize in? How are you going to help? If you've got those points lined up, your time, your customer's time is going to be extremely well used. Okay? So another question to think about with your sales process are, who are the customers that you want to focus on, and what are their needs? Okay. And can you ensure you're in tune with those requirements? So here's the thing, is there a particular customer that you are going to be able to help? What are your specialties? Because there's going to be lots of people out there you want to talk to. There could be hundreds, if not thousands, of potential clients, which is what you'll always see. But who are the ones that are going to benefit from you the most? What are your specialties? How are you going to help them? So have a think about that. And then how can you match what they're looking for to help with what you offer? Okay. So here is second point. Can you match your customers' needs to the services that you offer? And how do you match those needs to the right product or service? Are they looking for multiple sessions? Are they looking for one-offs? Where does your skill set help them? So please have a think about your customers' needs and how your services are going to match to those. And have you got, or do you have a way of staying in touch and creating repeat business? Now, obviously, as a personal trainer, you're going to be seeing someone on a regular basis. You've got that rapport. You've got those opportunities to talk. But if you are building leads that aren't always ready to buy, and maybe they're considering things, how are you going to manage any data that you maybe capture? What reasons are you going to have to stay in touch with them? And if you have got reasons, then how are you going to do it? Is it going to be social media? Is it going to be text? Is it going to be emails? Just have a think about some of those bits and pieces, because if you are creating contacts, it's important that you do something with them, okay? Something that's really important, and people don't often think about this until they've had a few people say no, because a lot of the time it's like, well, I'm offering my services, I've done a trial, I've spoken to them, they sound ready to start, but there might be something that's stopping them. So here's the thing that's important. Do you have a list of possible objections and how you can overcome them? There are going to be customers that decline what you're offering. So is there a strategy or some extra information that you can share to maybe aid their decision? One of the things that you'll find, and I've experienced a heck of a lot of, is most queries that people have, or most uncertainties, there's going to be a positive solution. It's just being able to come up with the right way of being able to do that and the right message to be able to solve. Okay? And the final point to think about on your sales process, is there going to be a referral or reward program that you offer? So if you've got clients that are working with you, they're loving the work that you do, If they do introduce you to someone new, is there going to be a reward for them? And if there is, what's it going to be? And if you have got customers that are coming on a regular basis, is there going to be a reward for frequent visits, bonuses, anything at all that adds value to what they're doing to make sure they continue to work with you? Now, the argument's always going to be, well, they've got goals they want to achieve, there's things that they want to sort of set their path towards, so that will keep them coming. But there's also going to be something more to it every now and again, something that's a perceived benefit, something that could be aid. So have a think about that. Is there a referral gift I'm going to give or an offering? And for my loyal customers, what's the reward I'm going to offer? What can add value? So have a think about some of those bits and pieces. Those questions are going to be super important to helping you save time, but also being in a good position to help your customers as well. So what I want you to do, just for a couple of minutes, this is the section reviews we were talking about earlier. Before you move on, take some time to complete these 5 points below. So who are the customers you're going to want to focus on? Okay. How are you going to match those customers' needs to the services you provide? How are you going to stay in touch with them? What are the uncertainties or objections that you think you may come across? And how can you assist with those uncertainties? And if you do, what is your referral or reward program you're going to offer? Okay. So if you want, take some time to pause now and go through those 5 questions, or you can come back and do them as I said, but if you're ready to do it, then maybe pause this, answer those 5 questions, and then we will pick up again. Okay. So welcome back if you paused it. So what we're going to do is we're going to move straight on now to section 2. Who are you and what do you do? Okay, so it's a quick exercise. I'd like you to do this. And again, you may want to pause it, or I'll give you a few moments. But what I want you to think about and what I'd love you to do is, can you explain who you are and what you do in 30 seconds? So ready, set, go. Okay, so hoping you maybe pause that there. If not, pause it now. But yeah, how did you get on? Were you able to sum up what you do and what you offer in 30 seconds? If you did, great. If you struggled a little bit or it needs a bit of refinement, that's something that we're just going to spend a little bit of time looking at now. Okay. So here's the question. Why is it so important to be able to sum up what you do and what you offer in 30 seconds? Well, as a personal benefit, it gives you increased focus in terms of what you're going to talk about. It also gives you increased personal power. Here's me, here's what I offer, and here's how I can help you, for example. But the benefit to growing your business is you are in a position to clearly explain who you are, what you do, how you do it, why people should do and work with you, and the next action for them to take. Now, a lot of the time, you may have come across this before. This is something that's referred to as your elevator pitch, okay? The idea being that if you're in an elevator or a lift with somebody and you've got 30 seconds before they reach their floor and you've got this opportunity to tell them how great you are and what you do, what would you do? Now, when you do your elevator pitch, it requires 5 things. First thing, very obviously, is to state who you are. Okay? The second thing is to state who your company is, giving a bit of background if you like. The third thing, and this is the bit that's super important, can you creatively tell what you do and the benefits that you offer? The fourth point, again, extremely important, you'll be in a position to ask a question. So how do you achieve that at the moment? So you've talked about who you are, who you work for, what you do and the benefits you offer, but how you achieve that at the moment. So you're asking a question for them to pause, think about, and give you some feedback. But what it ends with, your 5th point, is why a customer or potential customer should work with you. So is there a call to action, a free trial, an offer, something like that? But why is it they should work with you? Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do, again, just take some time to do this. This is just quick section 2 review. Put your elevator pitch together, those 5 points, okay? Now, what I'd love you to do again is at this point, put this recording on pause for a second, think about those 5 points. And the reason for that is this is a super important part of what you do in terms of planning and managing your time, because you've got to need to share what you do effectively with people. So take a moment, pause, and then what we'll do is we'll come back again. So welcome back. If you paused that, fantastic. If you didn't, then let's continue. But what I want to do now is we've moved from talking about your sales process, your elevator pitches in terms of getting you ready. What is our 3rd section? The importance of planning. So here's the important part. So ask you an open question. What's your plan for today? Have you got a plan for this week? Do you have a plan for this month, next 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year? Now, hopefully you do have something in place, but there's also a possibility that you haven't at this point. And I'm not going to turn around and tell you, bad boy, bad girl, whatever you've done. But what I am going to turn around and say is, this is something that's really important that you need to think about, is what is your structure? What is your strategy for how you're going to move yourself and your business forwards? Now, I mentioned right at the very start of this, it's really important that the action that you take now is going to have an impact in where you are in 12 months' time. So what I want to spend a little bit of time doing is just talking about setting plans and the kind of things to think about, okay? Now, I'm going to break this down for you. The important points of planning basically is, number one, it helps you to identify your goals. One of the most beneficial aspects of planning is creating the goals to accomplish, okay? So when you sit down and you write out what you want to accomplish, you'll be surprised, and I promise you will be, how this goal structure lends itself to creating a plan for accomplishing it, okay? The other thing that you find, and this is the really surprising bit for some people, it offers direction. As soon as you start setting goals or creating goals, the first step is allowing you to organize them accordingly in terms of what's important. And you'll find you begin towards making a plan towards creating your roadmap for success. You often hear people talking about what's your roadmap for success. What it comes from is actually thinking about what's up here, putting it down into some kind of plan, and being able to follow it, review it, and make sure you're heading in the right direction. Okay? The other thing that you find with planning, it also uncovers problems or maybe things that you need to do before you get to that step. So once you start creating your goals and identifying your direction, you become prepared for what's coming next. The more prepared you're going to be, the better you are to handle problems as they arise, because guess what? You've maybe anticipated it, you've got a plan ready to get around that roadblock, and you're able to move forward without too much distraction or delay. But what planning also does, it gives you perspective. Your goals and your direction help you to have a clear perspective of what matters and what is possible to accomplish. Remember what I said at the very start? Often people think about, or they underestimate what they can achieve in 6 months, or way overestimate what they can do in a month. As you create your goals, you'll focus on what you want to accomplish and the bits in between, okay? And for me, planning needs to be simple. And the best starting point is to have 3 ideas in mind. So your starting point needs to be, where am I now, okay? The next thing that allows you to think about is, where would I like to get to, or where would I like to be? And what should that start to do is start actually getting you to think about the steps that you need to take to get there. You're starting to pull up the format of your plan. So, simple way to plan, there's some examples here. You might look at, where am I now? Now, I've thrown up on here, you might be currently sitting on 4 clients, they're paying you £250 a month, so you're looking at £1,000 a month income, or £12,000 over the year. Okay, there's your starting point. The next thing to think about is, where would you like to get to? So what you might think about is, in 12 months' time, well, I'd like to have 15 clients that I'm working with, paying me £250. That's just under £4,000 a month. It's £45,000 a year, okay? So the bit that now happens is, what's the plan? What's the steps that I need to take to get there? So you start thinking about, well, how am I going to make this happen? Free trials. How many am I going to have to hold? So how many people are going to need to speak to host those free trials? And then when I do those trials, how many people am I going to need to convert to make that happen? Now, when you start to think about those bits, and there'll be other bits as well that you start to come up with, you'll find that it can be broken down into a monthly, weekly, and then daily goals, things for you to do, mixed in with all the other things in terms of working with your existing clients and other kind of sort of personal, professional things you're going to be encompassing. But it gives you the opportunity to start planning and breaking down your goals, very similar to as you would do with your clients. So an example of a plan might be something like this. Doesn't have to be, but you might be one way of doing it. But what I've broken it down to is this. So the monthly goal, for example, I need to get myself another 4 clients at £250 a month. So I need to speak to 32 potential customers, because maybe my conversion rate is speak to 32 and 50% of those will do a trial, okay? So that means we've got 16 free sessions that I'm going to hold. And what I'm hoping to do is convert 4 of those to paying clients. There's my month's goal, okay? Now, what I can do from that is think about how's that going to work over each week, over each 7-day period. So to begin with, I want to gain 1 extra client a week. To do that, I'm going to need to speak to 8 people, deliver 4 free sessions, and convert 1 paying client, okay? So there's my week's goal. So I've got something to work towards here. So what it means is I'm now able to maybe break it into a daily goal, which I need to speak to at least 2 potential new customers each day and hold 1 free session. So you can see how that breaks down. Now, your ideas, your plans might be slightly different, but that's just a way of kind of getting across. Monthly becomes weekly, becomes daily. You've got a focus to follow. You've got a plan to make happen, okay? And once you start to take these ideas out of your head and getting them onto paper or onto your phone or however you'll make your plans, then you'll have something to follow, track, manage, and make sure that you're starting to achieve those goals, okay? So what I'd like to do, just as your 3rd section to review, I'd like you to take some time out to outline the key points I've just mentioned and create an action plan, okay? So the starting points are going to be, where am I? Where do I want to get to? And start thinking about my first steps. When I've done that part of the exercise, I'm then able to move on to the monthly plan, how that breaks down into a week, and how that breaks down into a day. So again, if you want to continue and come back to this exercise, you're welcome to do so. If you'd like to sort of take some time to do it now, then let's pause the recording and then we will pick up again in just a few seconds. But either way, take some time to do this because it's going to be a super important part to what you do tomorrow after this session. Okay, so if you're going to pause, let's do that now, and good luck with this next section. Okay, so welcome back, section 4. Once you start to put a bit of a plan into play, then it's important that you start to review your success, what you've done, what's working, what maybe you can tweak a little bit, and give yourself the opportunity to learn. Okay, all too often people make plans, they just set them in, they repeat, and I think they call it the first sign of balance, keep doing the same things over and over again to get the same result. So it's really important that you take some time out to review what you're doing, how you're getting on, if there's any areas that you're noticing are working particularly well or maybe need just a little bit of adjustment, okay? So what we're going to do at this next section is cover those thoughts. So for me, when you're thinking about tracking your success and what you do, it's important that you understand what works for you. So there's a few things that you should definitely be tracking. First of all, how many people are you speaking to in a given period, whether it's a day, a week, a month? How many of these people are actually converting to trials, okay? And how many of those trials that you offer become clients, okay? You may even find just in between this, you actually speak to people and they go straight to client rather than trial, but just to kind of give you an idea, these are the kind of things you need to be looking for, okay? Next, you should also be getting to know how your customers are hearing about you and any current leads that you've got. So people that you've spoken to were considering taking up a session or a trial with you. How many of those people have you currently got lined up who are maybe ready to convert at a later stage? And what values attached? Is it £250 a month, £100 a month, whatever it happens to be? Now, knowing what works for you allows you to work, we've all heard it, work smart and plan for future success. But what I want to do just over the next slide or two is break that down in terms of some of the things that you can be looking for. So, why is it important? Let me give you some justification for this. As I said, you need to understand what works for you. So we talked about how many people you're speaking to, the conversion to trials, and then how many of those trials become clients. So here's the first thing. Are you speaking to enough people to set the trials that you need to convert? Okay, so if you want to hold 16 trials in a month and you're thinking 32 people is how many I need to speak to, but actually it's more like 50 or 60, then here's something to look at. If you're booking lots of trials but not enough are converting, do you need to look at more trials or get better at converting them? So is there something with regards to your sales process that needs to change, or something in terms of the customers you're approaching maybe needs to change? It starts to give you some learning points or some actions in terms of how much more or how you can change the way that you're starting to work. Okay, so please have a think about that. The other thing that's important to do is about getting to know about where your customers come from and how many leads you've currently got. What this will allow you to do is, if you're gaining customers through referrals rather than trials, do you start to think about, well, actually what I need to do is get better asking the people I'm working with to introduce me to more like-minded people or friends or people that they associate with. Or if my referrals are going well, but maybe I need to be doing better with my trials, can I change my focus a little bit? Is it something I can do better or different? So it just kind of gives you a bit of perspective to step back for a moment and see what's working and what do I need to tweak. If you have got people that you've spoken to and have said they need to think about it, or they're waiting for paydays or whatever it happens to be before converting to a full-time client with you, if you've got clients ready to sign up, when are they going to be starting? So you've got an idea of what's coming, future business if you like, but also how much they're worth. Because if in mind you've got that these clients are going to be paying you £250 a month, but actually they're talking about having less sessions to begin with, or maybe just doing one here or there, it might be that has an impact on the revenue you're going to see coming through. So if the value's not enough, then I need to find more new leads. So you may need to think about, do I speak to more people? Do I do more trials? Do I ask for more referrals? And so on. But it just gets you thinking about what's working, how can I adjust what my plans look like, and how can I make sure that I'm staying on track to achieve my goals? Okay. So the other thing about this is if you're tracking leads and you're starting to build up a database of contacts, be it 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, these things do tend to grow. But if you're starting to develop these leads, then what are you going to do with them? Is there a way or a communication plan that you're going to have? Because it's one thing generating an inquiry and having a potential customer to join and start with you. But what's the next thing you're going to do with them? If you leave them and they don't hear from you, then maybe they're going to forget about it. They lose a bit of momentum. So something to think about with any leads that you generate is, can you stay in touch? And what's your plan for doing this? So think about short-term follow-up with leads. Is it going to be a phone call, a text, an email? You're going to touch base with them when you see them in the facility you're working at. What's the medium term? Are you going to have some kind of pointers, newsletter, social media post that add value and keeps them in touch with you and asking questions and so on, and just kind of keeps you connected? And is there going to be any kind of long-term stuff you do, e-shots, newsletters, updates, anything at all that's going to stay and keep your customers focused with you? Not just the ones that you're hoping to attract, but the ones you want to keep as well. Important to keep involved in this kind of communication. The thing for me, this has always been important, because someone doesn't buy from you today doesn't mean they're not going to buy from you tomorrow. And what you'll find is they're going to be those people that convert to do personal training with you pretty quickly. There'll be others that take their time, come back to you in a month, 3 months, 6 months, or sometimes longer. But the fact is, if you've got them there and you stay in touch with them, at some time, at some point, they will come back and do some work with you. So important to kind of keep measuring how you're doing in terms of leads. Okay. So important, and again, this is something you'll be familiar with because this is something you'll be doing with your client, is when you're tracking, you start setting benchmarks for success and how you're getting on and can you move up, down, or how things are looking. So it's important, again, you take some time to analyze your work. If you're looking at how many you need to people to speak to on a trial, or how many people to take a trial to convert to PT, this gives you an opportunity to see how well you're doing, if there's any areas you need to improve on. With this information, you have a starting point then to consider, are the goals I'm setting correct? Do I need to adjust them in any ways? My plan need a little bit of a tweak here and there? And with that starting point, you can think about, what am I doing well? Where do I need to improve? And I'm starting to learn. And you get to see what you're doing well, and you start to build your roadmap for continued success, or maybe areas that maybe you need to take a step back, learn something new, pick up a skill, or talk to someone that maybe can give you some extra advice in the right direction. We'll talk about that towards the end. But please do start to set yourself some benchmarks. Why? Because it'll allow you to look at where I am in terms of level right now, and is that acceptable, or do I need to step it up a bit? And when you do think about setting your benchmarks, again, as you do with your personal training clients, setting a new or improved goal doesn't mean you suddenly go 20% up. Maybe it means you improve by 5% to 10% and so on. So you see steady increments of improvement, but you're not putting yourself under unnecessary pressure. Okay. But what I'd like you to do on this final review on section 4 is, taking the information that we've covered, make a list of the points you feel you need to track. When you've done this, ask yourself, why is it important to your future success to track these points, and make a note next to each one. Okay. So again, I'm going to give you an opportunity to pause this just before we finish and do the conclusion to this section. But if you want to continue, then great. But if you get the opportunity, pause it now, carry out the exercise, and I'll see you in just a moment or two. Okay, so welcome back. So just some final tips to finish them. Really important that you go from here. Set yourself a plan. One of the things that can often happen, I'm sure you've seen this when you work with clients yourself, you start talking about the things that you're going to do, but if you don't pick up pretty quickly, then what happens, some of the things that you've, or the ideas that you've had, start to slip away, you lose a bit of focus. So when you go away from here today, make sure, if you haven't already, look at your plan, set one up and get yourself moving. Map out and make sure you set a start date, as I said here, not too far away. And make sure you're in a position to start with no distractions or things to put you off. So if you're going to start today, or you're going to start Monday, or whatever it's going to be, make sure that on the day you start, there's no distractions, something that's going to stop you doing it, because what will happen is the day will slip, the time will slip, and it takes more time to kind of get yourself started. You lose a bit of momentum. Okay? And here's something that people sometimes get stuck on. As you're planning, don't be afraid to review how you're doing, okay? Always important to have a look at this. Even if you've been doing it for a couple of days, you've hit a roadblock. Why do you hit that roadblock? What can you do differently? But stop and look at what you're doing well. And if there are things that you're doing, stop to celebrate your success. A mental pat on the back can be a great starting point, okay? Whether it is you've achieved your first step, whether you put your plan together, take a moment to give yourself a pat on the back. We don't do that enough. And one of the things that you find is each time you achieve a goal, it motivates you to want to move on and be successful to the next one. A few other final tips just to kind of conclude here. If you need to amend your plan and you're doing better than you expected, or you need to make some adjustments to your timescales, please do. Okay, don't be afraid to do that. One of the things about setting a plan, a lot of the time, it's going to be a learning curve, an experience. So you might think it's going to take me, I don't know, 2 hours a day to make sure that I speak to the contacts that I need to speak to. It might actually be an hour, or it might actually be 3. So don't be afraid to tweak that. Okay. Really important one is hold yourself accountable. If you achieve something, well done, pat yourself on the back. If you didn't, have a quick check and look at why. And is there something that stopped you and something that you can learn? But make sure you hold yourself accountable. It's easy to let things slip otherwise. If you've missed a step or you're delayed, ask yourself why and what can you learn to do differently next time. Don't get frustrated. Take the opportunity as an opportunity to learn and see if you can do something differently next time. That's the whole thing. Take the experiences and add it to what your plan looks like. Similarly, as we said, when you achieve a step towards your goal from it, think what went well. What did I do that made that happen? What that will allow you to do is set a standard for continued success. Often if you do something well, we don't stop to look at it. When things don't go quite to plan, then what you do see to stop and try and take stock of things. But look at what you're doing well, because that will give you your roadmap for continued success. The more of those things that you can find, the easier your plan of action is going to be each time you put one together. Okay. Now, one of the things I'm going to say with any one of these sessions that you're going to sit in, and particularly this one, if there's any extra questions, you are so welcome to contact me. If you want to email me, you are welcome to do so. If you prefer to give me a call, please do. If for any reason you don't get me straight away, then we'll set some time aside just to answer any questions that you've got. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. Looking forward to speaking to you and hearing from you soon. More topics, more sessions to come, and all the very best. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Thank you.